to a Monday edition of Birds 365, a big Birds 365 today as we kick off free agency in the NFL. The legal negotiating window starts today at noon Eastern time, so we will be fast and furious with content this week. For those who do not know, that basically means teams and pending and free agents can make handshake deals, and they will be finalized at the start of the new league year on Wednesday at 4 p.m. Johnny Mack coming off a big weekend in Eagle Land where the first big extension has landed in Eagleville with Jordan Davis signing a massive deal. How you doing on this Monday morning, my friend?
Doing well. We're here. I got up, by the way, I got up first. One of the first posts I read was Happy Legal Tampering Day. And I just wanted to strangle the guy. Happy legal negotiate. You're allowed to negotiate. How is that tampering? Now, if you want to talk about what they do in Indianapolis, that's tampering. What they do over these 2 days, completely legal. There you go. My pet peeve.
John, we're going to have plenty of stuff here that happens this weekend. And I assume, as I mentioned in my open, it'll be coming fast and furious. But let's start right what happened this weekend, my friend. We talked on Saturday after the news broke on a breaking news edition, but we always have a chance to elaborate further here on Birds 365. John, the floor is yours on the Jordan Davis deal. He signs a 3-year extension, $26 million per year. It's a $78 million extension. You did add in, which we always appreciate, the extra information of the 5th-year options included in there. So it really is more like a 4-year, $91 million deal for Jordan Davis. But the 3-year extension at $26 million per with $65 million guaranteed. John, your first thoughts here on Birds 365 on the Jordan Davis extension. That's some big money, J-Mac.
It is. Any way you look at it, even if you give the real numbers and explain the 5th-year options rolled into it. So it's really, a 4-year deal, as you mentioned. So he's signed through 2029. And he's still top 10 when you add in that 4th year, which is the 5th year option on his rookie contract, which is just under $13 million. So he's still a top 10 paid defensive tackle, even if you add the context. By the way, second pet peeve already. That's why agents do it. 3-year extension, 7 area. Wow. That's why they do it, for the good public relations. That's why they release things that way. And then you got to get the more real numbers, and we'll see how it's, as far as the salary cap, certainly going down. Jordan was set to count all of that $13 million against the cap this year, so it'll come down pretty significantly as the Eagles spread it out over the entirety of the contracts, which will presumably also include void years. So it'll look much better from a cap standpoint. Look, bottom line, we all focused, I focused, a lot of people focused on the nose tackle contracts and said, you're not going to have to pay Jordan Davis this money. Well, yeah, I own that because I didn't think the Eagles valued him the way they just said they valued him. And what they said was that this is more of a 2-down player than a 2-down player. So that's where you are. Now, to date, that hasn't been the case. Last year, we were talking about, we came on, Ora Jomo led the Eagles in 3rd down snaps at defensive tackle last year with 170 in 17 games. Now, that pretty easy math there. That's 10 per game on 3rd down. Jalen Carter was 142, but remember, he only played 11 games, so he was well over 10. And he would have been, obviously, if he played all 17. And then Jordan Davis, who also played the entirety of the season, 87 snaps on 3rd down. So what they're telling you is that's
and
going
how many games for Jordan?
All
17?
I forget. He might have sat the last one, but I have to double check when they rested everybody. I think he sat. Did he play? I don't remember.
I don't know. I thought I remembered him maybe playing there. I'll double check for you.
So either way, 16, 17. And he had a great season, don't get me wrong, but bottom line is, look, the Eagles pass rushers on third down were Jalen Carter when he was healthy and Moro Jomo, as they should have been. That makes perfect sense, to be honest. So now what you're highlighting is, and we all knew they were only going to keep 2 of 3 long term, and most assume that Morrow would be sort of the same routes as Milton Williams, and he'd be the guy who would play out his rookie deal and sign elsewhere. But now, boy, there's a lot of talk about Jalen Carter being shopped, even though you'll see the Eagles are taking calls similar to AJ. I was trying to jump through hoops to get AJ out of here, which tells you what's going on there long term. And by the way, I don't think he's going to do it at the new league year, but don't get all excited because the draft's coming. Now you have this other window in late August that Micah Parsons sort of opened up, and you have the in-season trade deadline. To me, it's not if anymore, it's when he's traded. And I don't think it's going to be before the start of the new league year.
I'm going to have you elaborate on that a little later on, but go ahead, continue.
So from the standpoint of Jalen Carter, it's, I think the Eagles are starting to envision a life with Jordan Davis and Moro Ajomo and the assets they can get for Jalen Carter. You look at Max Crosby getting 2 first-round picks. Well, can Jalen Carter get 2 first-round picks? So ask yourself, if they can get that kind of haul, would you rather have 2 first-round picks plus Jordan Davis plus Moro Ajomo, or would you rather just have Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis? It's an interesting question. I don't know if they can get 2 first-round picks, because fair or not, Jalen has a little bit of a reputation.
Right.
But if you can, it's interesting. It's an interesting.
At the very least, it's an enticing conversation. At the very least, even if you want to keep Carter, you're probably thinking about that. John, no doubt about, that's a big money contract for Jordan Davis. You said he's been a 2-down player, which is correct. And this contract is a projection of it being a 3-down, him being a 3-down player. John, you talk a lot about projection and evaluation because you're right. It's such a big part of the GM job. Is this a bad projection here by the Eagles to pay Jordan Davis this type of money, given how many 3rd-down snaps he's played in his career?
Well, he played really well last season. I mean, he got himself into shape, as we've talked about with the Peloton and all the stuff that you've heard. And also he's turned into, a tremendous leader. I think that factors into it. That's a guy you want around everybody, want around the building. I think that's a part of it. But, you don't pay guys for that. They paid him because he played really well. They challenged him and he played really well and he answered the bell. So can he take that next step? Well, that's the trick. The evaluation part of it is the trick. It's always the trick. And it's always hard to, that's where things can go awry. But, he did impact. If you look at the similar players who are sort of run players who get paid, the Dexter Lawrences, Vita Bea to a certain extent, even a Lynn McNeil before he got hurt in Detroit, they're all good run players, but they also affect the pass. Now the problem right now is, a lot of the reasons he didn't get an opportunity to play on 3rd down is because the Eagles had 2 defensive tackles that are so good on 3rd down.
Right. It's a big part of it for sure.
Yeah. So, if he were on a different team, maybe it would look better. And again, you'd like to live in a world where you could have all 3, but you can't. So you got to make these difficult decisions. And, is he a better, run and pass player than Moro Jomo? Yeah, he is, because Moro's not good against the run. He's very light. He's getting better. But so he's definitely a more well-rounded player. And then, of course, Carter's, different from a talent standpoint. So I'm not going to put him in a conversation. If they move him, it'll be for different reasons, but health and some of those maturity issues, and maybe they're challenging him behind the scenes, and maybe he takes the baton just like Jordan Davis did. But he played very well.
Considering Jordan Davis's deal size, that baton might be 40 million, John, for Jalen Carter.
Well, and that's the other part. How high do you want to go, for Jalen Carter? When you start talking about potentially what can you get for him? How high do you want to go?
First, though? I don't know if it's 2 first.
I don't think they can get 2 first, no. I mean, you got to be really good and really trying to find the word where you got to be able to be counted on week after week, year after year. I mean, consistent, just star power. Like I've said with one of my concerns, they never leaves the field, year after year. Now, bad team, but you can count on that guy. Micah Parsons.
In a way, John, Jordan Davis has been similar. I mean, 13 games his rookie year, and then 17, 17, 17 for 3 straight years. He's been healthy.
Well, he has, but the difference between him and Max is Max has been out there for 1,000 snaps, and
Max plays 90% of the snaps as compared to Jordan.
That's what I'm taught. That was part of the issue with Jordan Davis was, early in his career wasn't playing a lot of snaps, to say the least. So, but the star power of, and injuries come into it again, the injury rate. But Micah Parsons up to that point had been, lights out from production, durability, week to week consistency. So those are the guys who generate that type of. I'm not sure Jalen Carter's at that level, but doesn't hurt to ask.
No doubt. And this Jordan Davis deal is massive. Congrats to Jordan Davis. He did have a big year, John. They asked a lot of him, and he certainly delivered. Had a great year. Now it's exciting to see what's coming. John, on our breaking news segment, you brought up something interesting, and it kind of goes to the conversation today about if you shop Jalen Carter or Jomo or what they're going to do with the other 2 tackles that they have. Will the Eagles even want to go into this season with all 3 guys on the roster? They're all under contract, but will they want to go into the season? You asked the question. If it's 3rd down and you're Vic Fangio, is Vic going to prioritize the contract, or is he going to put the 2 best pass rushers on the football field? And then you must answer the question, is Jordan Davis better to have on the field at that point than Moro Jomo and Jalen Carter? If he is not, John, you are in a similar scenario where he's a 2-down player. How do you think the Eagles handle that? And do you think they'll make a move at that position before the start of the new year?
No, I ultimately, because I don't think, I think the only thing they would do is that type of monster deal for Carter. Otherwise, all 3 will be back. And to me, this is a clear indication they're going to kick the can down the road with Jalen Carter. They're going to pick up his 5th-year option, which is enormous, by the way, because he's already made 2 Pro Bowls, so it's over $27 million. So if you consider his 5th-year option, Jordan Davis's was 13, so it's more than twice as big. But that's also, 2027, not this season. So you have some time with Jalen Carter, and then Moro Jomo, you're in the Milton Williams situation with Moro. He's playing out his rookie deal. And if he plays well, he's going to break the bank, but you're not going to move him because of the talent right now. And then you sort of have to wait a year for Jordan Davis to become more of an impact on passing downs. Because, Yeah, I mean, Vic's going to play the guys who are the best pass rushers on third obvious passing situations. That'd be nuts to not. So if they're here, they're going to play on third downs.
No doubt. Johnny Mac, legal negotiating window kicks off in about 3 hours and 40 minutes, John, which means the only negative of our Monday Birds 365 is that this thing might be expired pretty quick, John. We're about to have fast and furious news coming in at noon today. So lock in with us, everybody. Hit that like button. I got some great things coming this week on the channel. We'll have a bunch of breaking news reactions. I want to thank Fritz Bianculli Law Firm for sponsoring the program today. And I also want to remind all the great people of JAKIB Nation one thing. We had the Savvy Seats home opener promo running a couple weeks ago, and we almost sold it entirely out. We had a couple extra guys who did not finalize, and then we also had Savvy come back and say, any of the JAKIB people that want to go, we are going to make it happen. So we have some more available spots. Get your text in. Shoot Krause a text, 267-261-3428, and get your JAKIB Sports Savvy Seats home opener for the Philadelphia Eagles. Guys, if you don't know about this deal, $100 per ticket gets you a ticket to the tailgate, which is going to be catered. We're going to have food. We're going to have everything down by the stadium, and it gets you into a seat in the stadium, not standing room, in a seat in the stadium. $100 per ticket. You're not going to find that anywhere else. Good luck going to the home opener for less than 100 beans. So we're going to do it for everybody for $100 with the tailgate included. I'll be down there. I might be doing the pregame show from down there, Johnny Mac. So we will see how that goes. So shoot Krause a text, 267-261-3428, and get your tickets today. Johnny Mac, legal negotiating window opens at noon. What's the first news we're going to hear in Eagle Land when it comes to this window that kicks off today? It's got to be Jaylen Phillips, right? Because of the
it's interesting. They changed the rule this year where, previously during the legal negotiating period, you can only deal with agents. You couldn't talk specifically to players. And now you're allowed to talk to players via Zoom or some kind of video conference for an hour per. So, and you have 5 guys you can talk to in that way. So teams might want to wait a little bit longer to check in with guys. I don't know. This is the first time it's happened. So we'll see how that affects things. Be interesting if I assume we'll uncover eventually the 5 guys, and the Eagles are going to talk to 5 guys because they have the option. They're going to do it.
right.
So I imagine they'll come out eventually, but we'll see. So it's kind of new, uncharted grounds for how it's going to be. In the case of, you saw some of the repurposing, as I like to call it, yesterday around about the Eagles and Jaylen Phillips. You've been watching this show. Yeah, he's their top priority. Retention, off season. Now they're not going to hand him a blank check. There is a walk away number. Don't know what that is.
Does the Davis deal have any impact there?
No, they had budgeted
Separate buckets, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they budgeted heavily. I saw our boy James Carver, if he's listening, he sent us a long note on X. He's always been a big Jordan Davis guy. So big shout out to James Carver. But he had mentioned, well, if they don't get Phillips, they'll pivot to Dean. They're pivoting to they're getting an edge rusher. They budgeted for the edge rushing position. Now I think it's going to be done with Jaylen Phillips. Ultimately, I've always thought he'd be back. I think he understands the Eagles are going to pay him market value. He understands his best football has been with Vic Fangio. He understands how well he played late last season. Ultimately, I think they're going to get it done. If you look at Athletic, I think he was 3rd. If you look at the well thought of around the league. And usually pass rushers at his age don't hit the open market. So he's number one. He's the biggest priority, and I think the Eagles are going to get it done, but we shall see.
Any indication where you think that number is, John? Have you heard any new information on the Jaylen Phillips deal? I mean, I've seen some pretty crazy numbers floated out there. I've heard 27, 28 million. And you look at some of the contracts being signed, John. I mean, it's not hard. It's not hard to get me to believe that Jaylen Phillips' camp wants 28 million, and it could be even more than that they want. Anything you've heard around what that number could be with Jaylen Phillips?
No, I mean, there's guys at the top are going to get overpaid. So he's going to get overpaid. The question is that 25, 24, 25? It's not 18. I know that. Is it 30? Then the Eagles.
It's not the famous 17.3 on Spotrac, John.
Yeah. I hate to pick on him, but I mean, I don't know what was going on there, but it'll dry up pretty quickly, though. You see some of the deals getting done before free agency. They're more modest, but I think Jaylen's going to be one of the few guys who cashes in really, really big. And it'll look worse when they announce it. Like I said, that's my prediction. If you want a prediction, you're going to be blown away by the size of the deal. And then the real numbers will come out and it'll make more sense. But that's my prediction on Jaylen Phillips.
Well, that's a good prediction, John. That's always how it goes. And that's what happened with the Jordan Davis deal as well.
It happens in every deal. That's just the way it is. But boy, people buy it. That's why they do it. And the old adage with some business people is people remember the first story. They don't remember.
Well, John, it's not. Is it even people like, for example, how do you cover it? We and you went live. How do I cover it without using the numbers that are put out? And in a way, it's almost like coercion into making people believe it, because I have to say the numbers without knowing the real numbers,
but we added the context to it
right
away. Because I got one of the reasons I can't jump on right away when these things happen is I'm trying to gather information.
Right.
Well, one of the things I was able to gather, it kept them under contract to 2029. Well, I'm saying 2026, 2027, 2028. No, that's the Eagles' typical way of doing things. Fold in the fifth-year option, and sure enough, that's what happened. So it's really a 4-year, $91 million, which is still significant. And again, you'll have void years, and the cap part of it will be much lower than people expect, and how he will get all his flowers. How does he do it? Yada, yada, yada. Well, he does it because, what's going on with AJ, Yeah.
Well, we got to go there this morning, John. I mean, I wasn't even going to go to AJ this morning, but I got to go to him after I heard what you said. You said, and I think this was the phrase, Howie is jumping through hoops right now on AJ Brown. Is that the phrase you used, Johnny Mac? What exactly did you mean by that? And elaborate a little bit on what the latest you've heard on the AJ Brown saga is here in Philly.
Well, we said from the start it makes no sense from a business perspective to trade AJ Brown right now because of the impact it does to your cap right away if you make the trade now. It doesn't make any sense. So, I think the term that Mike Garafolo used was trying to be creative. Can we do 2 separate deals? Can we do a deal now and do a deal after June 1st? And then he doesn't go to you to after June. It's not, and nobody's biting on that, obviously. So, so this talk of, we don't have to trade him. Well, you're doing a lot to try to trade him. So to me, that's where I say it's not if, it's when now. It might, and I don't think it is going to be right now because it'll impact the Eagles too much in the short term. The next window will be the draft. Probably won't happen then either for the same reason. Next window is after June 1st, but really August could happen. Micah Parsons kind of opened up that market. In season could happen. Next March will happen. I mean, best case scenario, you got 1 year left with AJ Brown, in my opinion. Now, also things can go well in that year. Sean Mannion can turn into Bill Walsh. Jalen Hurts can turn into, Joe Montana and throw a bunch of and AJ could all of a sudden be happy again. So, when you have time, you can fix things. But I mean, the guy's trying to be creative. Maybe I went too far and jumping through hoops. Why are you trying to be so creative if your goal is to keep him here? Why? Because he doesn't want to be here.
Right.
I mean, to me, it's pretty clear. And I know people are going to shit their pants about that, but grow up, baby.
It is what it is, John. I mean, you're right. A lot of indications here on that. John, we got Jeff Kerr coming up in a minute here. I want to thank everybody for being here. Hit that like button. Got a good crowd in here for the start of NFL free agency. The new league year officially begins Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. But always they give us that nice little lead up to it. Today at noon Eastern, the legal negotiating window kicks off, and you will see deals fast and furious. John, real quick, one more question before we get to Jeff Kerr. Just your thoughts on some of the deals, man, around the NFL. I'm going to try and give people the most of what I've seen. It's been quite a bit, so I can't get all of them. All right, but obviously Jordan Davis extended 4-year deal, $91 million. It was a 3-year, $76 million extension. Yesterday, a major deal for Trent McDuffie after the trade from Kansas City to LA gave him a massive 4-year contract, over $30 million per year. Max Crosby was traded from the Raiders to the Ravens, John, for 2 first-round draft picks. DJ Moore went from the Bears to the Bills. David Montgomery went to the Texans. Zaire Franklin goes to the Packers. Titus Howard to the Browns. Teron Jack Johnson to the Raiders. And then a bunch of releases: Stephon Diggs, Kyler Murray, Geno Smith, Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, and Javon Hargrave, former Eagle, Marshawn Lattimore, Tremaine Edmonds, and just recently Tua Tagovailoa. And then a couple other signings: Khalil Mack, Alec Ingold, Tyler Huntley, Sean Ryan, Ed Ingram, Eric Wilson, and Justin Stranad. John, what your takeaway is on all the moves around the NFL? Do any of them stick out to you or worth mentioning here on Birds?
Obviously, the biggest ones are Max Crosby and McDuffie. But McDuffie also affects the Eagles because guess what? He just set the top of the market for cornerback. Guess who's next? After next season.
Yep.
Quinyon Mitchell. So that's the kind of, if Quinyon Mitchell keeps playing like Quinyon Mitchell, that's the kind of money you're talking about. And Cooper DeJean, a little bit less because he plays inside, but that's what you're talking. That's why the Eagles are acting like they're acting. That's why they're not signing every name you've ever heard of. So those are obviously the 2 biggest ones, and they both impacted the Eagles in a weird way. The Crosby stuff, I don't think the Eagles were ever a big part of that. Now they check in on everything, so it's easy to say they're involved, as we say. So Howie's certainly keep an eye. But the Raiders wanted draft choice. They don't want a player. What is Jalen Carter going to do for the Las Vegas Raiders other than do what Max Crosby did? Be a good player on a really bad team. They want young players to grow with Fernando Mendoza, and hopefully, 2-3 years down the road, maybe they can.
Well, I think it's a little different. I mean, is it easier for Mendoza to develop with a young receiver or with an established vet? Doesn't mean you got to keep AJ forever, but you have an offensive-minded head coach.
Jalen Carter was the name floated for.
Yeah, no, they don't want Jalen Carter. AJ Brown, I thought you were talking. Yeah,
no. They haven't been involved with AJ either. The teams right now, it's New England or bust with AJ. That's everybody else is out. Baltimore was in, but they traded 2 first-round picks for Max Crosby. They're out. Buffalo was in, but they did that dumb deal to get DJ Moore, so they're out. It's New England or bust, and the Eagles aren't looking at NFC teams, so that's why I don't think it's going to get done. Just, the Patriots aren't budging, and Howie's not budging, and so it will continue, in my opinion.
Yep, a couple big deals yesterday. We mentioned a Max Crosby deal. It was hyped to Philly, and then you don't hear anything about it after it goes. That's kind of how it happens here in the city of brotherly love. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Hit that like button. We got the great Jeff Kerr set to join us right here on Birds 365. He joins us now. You can follow him at Jeff Kerr, PH